I want to go over roster construction. Not that I don't know if it needs to be gone over. I'm sure everybody's been playing fantasy football for a while, but I don't know if it matters if you're new or not. There's people that I've played with for 10 years and they still make kind of the same mistakes. It could just be them. But I think more importantly than anything, even if you're looking at you're looking at all these different rankings and everyone's different advice on stuff. At the end of the day, your draft is probably one of the biggest difference makers as far as you having a good season or not. So it comes down to that hour and a half, 2 hours. So you want to try to draft well. And just because you know the names doesn't mean that you're good at drafting or you're good at going along with the flow of the draft. So I just want to touch on roster construction, and I think by uh, looking at examples, you can see and everybody's draft is different, but you can at least kind of get an idea of what not to do. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I make mistakes. I can go through it and look at this. I don't really sit here and analyze it. I'm doing it this year just so I can do a video on it. But let me get to it because not everyone has all the time in the world. People working, have kids, other stuff, whatever, um, playing video games. So I want to go over just the roster constructions here and some things that I see that I would think is a mistake. So you can kind of try to avoid. This one that I'm showing you is probably not a normal one that everybody's doing. I happen to be showing this one first, and it doesn't matter what type I'm showing you. It's the point of it is the same at the end of the day. Um, this particular league is a 2 QB league, or it's 1 QB, one super flex, but basically you're going to want to have a second QB in that super flex. This one's a little bit of a weird league. He has the setup here is -3 points for an interception and 2 for a sack. So the quarterbacks here, even though it seems like they're actually this is in a normal order, but typically you want to in this type of league you want to go after players that have a better offensive line or QBs that have a better offensive line, whatever. I don't need to go into all that, but anyways, so it's a 2 QB league basically, 3 wide receivers. It's standard scoring, 10-man league. I will go over normal like PPR and half point PPR in another video I'll put it in another section. And if you want to just go to that one because you don't care about 2 QB leagues and you don't have to care about it, I'm just showing you for the purpose of roster construction. You can learn from no matter which one you look at. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, we're going to go over this and look at, so that's 2 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a flex wide receiver running back, not a tight end, and then a standalone tight end, 7 bench, IDP, defense, that normal thing. So since it's standard scoring, and it's 10-man, that means there's going to be more players available. And also what it means is standard seems to skew a little bit more towards running backs, where half point PPR, I believe, is like as perfect of a balance as you can get. And then PPR, skews a little bit more towards the running back. I mean, towards the wide receiver, of course, and then um, game script type running backs that are going to get passed uh, or be dumped off to the third down back. Now in the standard league, the third down backs aren't as important. So someone like Duke Johnson and stuff like that. I think we should all know that, but just worth saying. So, and I'm saying that because I think the strategy of your standard league is kind of getting some good running backs, at least 2, and then in a 2 QB league here, your goal is to try to get some decent QBs. And just to show you the drop off, this is in a Yahoo league. This is last year's 2019 rankings for QBs in this particular league. And as you can see from the fan points here, the drop off after you get to this section, that's where you start to drop off here. And most of those drop offs, even if you have someone good like Josh Allen here or Kyle Murray, um, It might be lower touchdowns. It might be higher sacks right here. Um, but again, you want to, since this particular league, you're going for just the strategy for this particular league. So just so you can see kind of the um, strategy here. Obviously, every league has their different strategies. So, anyways, let's look at. I'm probably talking way too long on this, but let's look at this team right here, Garopopotamus. As I stated in the article, I think it's important to know who your teammates are, what type of league you're in. I'm personally from Cleveland, so I have a Cleveland league. I'm out on the West Coast, so I'm out in San Diego. So this is a West Coast draft. So these are 49ers fans, and we've got, I know he's a Raiders fan. Yeah, he's a Raiders fan right here. Everyone else, I believe, is 49ers. But anyways, if you have a mix of players that aren't just all in your hometown, get an idea of what people like and try to get an idea. If you're drafting with these people every year, you usually can go look at last year's draft and kind of see how they draft. And people tend to do some of the same things. Now, me, I might differentiate, and just because being kind of contrarian, one year I'll go one route, another year I might go another route. Depends on the situation. But again, for this type of league, you're targeting certain types of QBs that are at that top range and all that stuff. So, anyways, looking at this, um, Patrick Mahomes is good. Julio Jones is good. Juju Smith-Schuster's good. AJ Brown's good. Evan Ingram's good. So he knows a lot of good players, but it doesn't really matter because I feel, for example, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to be right, and it doesn't mean it's going to turn out this way, of course, but you can look and see that there might be some opportunity here. So he goes with Mahomes first, which is, good as a kind of an obvious pick, right? Coming back into the second round here, he's kind of forced in a position to get a running back. Nick Chubb's, I think, is a fine pick in the situation. You could go with Mixon, Sanders if you think that Chubb's not going to get as many numbers looking at the last 8 games of the season with Hunt. But that's neither here nor there. The building this roster, he needs a running back more than likely in the second round after picking up Mahomes. So he goes with Nick Chubb, fine pick. Okay, coming on the turnaround, and as you see, a lot of running backs are going right here. That means by the time it does come back to him on the next round, it's going to be a little bit thinner on running backs, and he still has some opportunity here, but it is. And I think he's okay even going with Julio Jones here, but I may say that he might be better off doing another running back here. But I'm still fine with the Julio Jones pick. I think this first spot maybe is a somewhat tough spot because as you see coming down here, like coming back around here, he's not going to have many options for QBs past this point right here. Um, but I still think this pick right here had an opportunity for him to get a running back in this particular situation. Um, that just my thoughts. It doesn't mean that again that I'm accurate, but we're just looking at how you can avoid, being smart with your construction of your roster, so you can come out at the end of the day and have something to lean on and say, okay, I had a good draft, and that again is going to give you a greater probability of getting through the season. It's to be said, if you really want to go out, looking at all this and looking at players and their opportunity throughout the season as well as, towards the playoffs and stuff. But, it's looking way too far in the future. So the first part of it is just trying to get a good draft in. Um, so I think here, again, running back. If not, and he comes back around here, yeah, the running backs are getting real thin. And even right here, he wouldn't have, my mistake, these guys weren't available. So coming back around here, he could still get a running back. Of course, I like Juju, but again, he overall, as you can see with his roster, he left himself real thin. His running backs, Nick Chubb, who could be fine, but he also could be in a situation with Hunt there. And then he has J.K. Dobbins, who is an excellent running back. Right now, he's not the starter, of course. Could he etch his way in by the end of the season? Maybe, or maybe they just run Mark Ingram's wheels because they've got Lamar Jackson. They got a good enough team, and maybe J.K. Dobbins becomes a starter next year, and they kind of ease him into that role. And so maybe they split those two guys, just much like maybe Ingram and Alvin Kamara when they were with the Saints. So it doesn't mean Mark still has a job, of course, no matter how good you think Dobbins is. But either way, he left himself so thin that he didn't have much choices going through this. He even had opportunity to grab Cam Akers right here in this position as opposed to another wide receiver. And maybe he's going a little bit more wide receiver heavy, but with having 3 wide receivers in a standard league, there's more than enough room here to get 3 wide receivers here, still have a running back right here. So I just feel like this was a poor draft right here for Garoppolopotamus. Again, doesn't mean that it's going to be wrong at the end of the day. And I even see some opportunities, like I would grab DJ Moore over Cortland Sutton. He's having a greater opportunity, I believe. Still good. I mean, both these guys are still good. But anyway, I feel like this is much to be said. Now, moving over, I feel someone in a similar position. And again, this is important as well. So if you're next to somebody and they come out of the draft with something a little bit more robust or something that seems to make a little bit more sense, you have to wonder, well, why weren't you able to do the same thing, basically? So Sin City, a Raiders fan. So of course, there's some Homer Raiders picks here that probably aren't, you probably don't need in that situation, but I still understand it. You like certain players, you want to have fun watching the season. I try not to get wrapped up in too much emotion, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. There's certain people that I like and target, and I'm like, I kind of like this guy, or sometimes trying to keep my teams even somewhat, which is not the best thing to do. But like certain players, sometimes it works out, and it's worked out for me where I have Kareem Hunt on all teams when his breakout year, Todd Gurley, and so I have a better chance of my teams going off. But then obviously it can go the other way around. But anyways, back to this construction. So obvious choice, McCaffrey. He could go Lamar Jackson here, but I think this is an excellent pick. Coming back around, he's getting one of the top QBs, based on results of last year. You see Russell Wilson is towards the top there. And then he countered by getting another running back and clearing his running backs. His running backs are done for his roster. So now the only thing he has to worry about going forward is another QB and getting his wide receivers. Tight ends beyond these 2 guys in standard. And I would say Ertz too. I think Ertz going way down here. I didn't even notice he went all the way down there, but I would never do this homer pick over Ertz, especially when all their wide receivers are hurt. But I'm not going to go into analysis of players. But he gets his three running backs. Great. Has his QB. Starting to build out his wide receivers. Terry McLaurin, excellent pick. Coming back here, I'd probably not even Ertz here, but I'd probably do another wide receiver right here and round out your wide receivers in this section right here. He could. No, this is fine. So the only trouble spot I would say here is this homer pick right here. But either way, overall, I think it's a good draft. Maybe having a bump up in QB, but either way, he's got enough to work with because of McCaffrey and these guys over here. But overall, I believe that started off with a good draft. You're scratching here at the bottom, so you never know. I mean, you still want to, towards the bottom, grab some guys that you think have some sort of high upside. I don't think Jordan Howard has upside. He's just a body. Maybe that's fine. DeAndre Swift is fine. Another homer pick right here. I'd probably go with Marquise Brown, Gallup over those guys, over Henry Ruggs. But still, I don't hate the pick. But overall, I think another homer pick right here. Overall, this is a good. His top picks seem to make sense. Same thing over here with Fade Into You. Lamar Jackson, grabbed another running back, top tier tight end, another top QB in this particular league. Again, Aaron Rodgers might not be the number one in your league. But you see here, Gurley, so he's got his 2 QBs done. He's not worried about them anymore. He's got enough running back here. He's got his tight end spot done. So now he just needs some wide receivers because there's 3 wide receiver spots and 1 more. Well, he doesn't need another running back, but he can do flex. But anyways, he gets Chark, gets Ridley, Brown here. So his 3 main wide receivers and another solid draft, I would say. Solid draft for him. So anyways, I probably made this longer than need be, but I just want to go over the roster construction of your draft because it's important that you try not to make mistakes. Doesn't mean you're going to be 100%. You're going to be on the clock, but take a second, grab a cold beverage, or just hop into the draft and just do what makes sense. Go with the flow of the draft. See how people are getting picked off. And what I didn't bring up, I use Fantasy Pros here for this thing because I've just used it for a couple years. I don't know what I did prior. I'm sure there's probably some free software to use this, or I also used to just write this down I would just hand write it down. So I like having a visual of, and I think it does make a difference because it helps you predict who you think's gonna get taken off or where the flow of the draft is going. As well as the people that you know in your draft and who you think that they may pick, or a player maybe they had last year that they liked. But it's important, I think, just so you can see. So again, if you don't have Fantasy Pros or something, there's probably something free. I haven't researched it, and or just on a good old fashioned piece of paper, do some blocks, line paper, and write QB, whatever. Obviously, this is nice because it's colored. So if you have 60 seconds to pick or something, you're not scrambling as much. So, but anyways, I just wanted to touch on roster construction. I'm going to do another video for the next one is going to be a half point PPR. And this strategy or the next one I'm going to go over as far as things not going your way during your draft. So in this particular draft, this is my team right here. Things happen to go my way. Again, doesn't mean that I had a perfect draft or anything like that, but I rounded out my running backs here because I think again that was important for standard. I'm sure I said that enough. And then getting a top tier QB, you could say I made a mistake here, and I was self-aware of it. For whatever reason, I feel like Big Ben's going to have a bounce back year, even though Breeze is probably the better pick right here, in all honesty. But I was floating between the two of who I wanted, and I decided just to go with Big Ben. So you can say I made a mistake here. But in terms of roster construction, I don't believe I made a mistake because I got my QBs. And Big Ben did finish in 2018 here second on the thing. Doesn't mean he's going to be second this year with the running QBs and stuff like that. But anyways, I rounded out what I needed here. Then now I'm targeting my wide receivers next. Okay, so I get Amari Cooper. I did a stack action here with Dak and him. Ty I feel will have a little bit of a bounce back, but I still had enough room to get those guys and have enough wide receivers available because seeing the flow of the draft, there's going to be enough wide receivers available. Coming back here, I didn't want to. I feel like I'm good with my running backs, and I don't really need another one, to be honest with you, because there's only 2 main running back starts. But because of where I'm at, I felt like I didn't want to pass up on Cam Akers here, and I thought there was enough wide receivers left to choose from when it got back to me. And it was already a hard choice. So like there was like enough wide receivers left basically. And so on the way back, Gallup I thought was the next best, but then I didn't really want him in all honesty because I already have Cooper. But still, even grabbing Gallup, I decided, well, I'll take the best receiver off the board or what I feel is the best, and I still have more to choose from. So I don't care about having kind of an extra player there. So coming back, I got Deontay, a little bit of a stack action with Ben. Um, this is not normal of me to do defenses early at all. In a regular league, I'm always a QB late type of guy, typically, except for this year. Um, I'm a QB late person, so like usually get like Stafford or some other people. This league again, I have to get those QBs earlier and better quality QBs with better lines. But I usually stream defenses, and I didn't want to mess around this year with that. I just wanted to get a defense that I could set and forget, and I could tell how these guys were drafting that I have more than enough to choose from, even if I pick Steelers. So picking Steelers here, I didn't really lose out on anything in this group. So it really didn't matter. Okay. So it came back around. I still got Zach Moss, who's probably a better pick, in my opinion, than a handcuff that may or may not start. A person that, well, now he's on, um, who the hell did he go to? I think he went to the Bucks today or yesterday, which is a good spot for him. But Zach Moss is a good pick. And then I went with my backups. So I have Elliott. So I took Pollard. I've got Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. Djax I knew was going late. He's a good pick right now, even though towards the season obviously you have Alshon and Rieger. So, but for right now, Deshaun's a good pick, and then I can use him in my 3 wide receiver set because this is kind of a negative correlation, probably, unless it's like a crazy game. I don't want to have Gallup, Cooper, Zeke, and Dak in a game. So I'll put Deontay probably, or in the first game against Washington, I'll probably put Djax. That might be like have a revenge narrative to it. Tight ends I didn't care about, so Jasicki, could take anybody here, or I would even take Herndon, but like he's still on the waiver wire. So, and then I took Rieger here, even though this is IDP because I can put him. We're doing an IR spot in this league for COVID, basically, so I'm putting him in the IR spot. I could alternatively done Alshon. Um, I wish I had more room to draft on here. And then I took Benny Snell to back up Connor. So I felt, even though I'm biased because this is me, that I felt like I had a decent draft here, and things went my way in this draft. So the next one, I'm going to go over it not going my way. And so what you do if things don't go your way, basically, you want to kind of stay mentally prepared for that. So probably way too long a video than needed, but just be smart when you're drafting. Again, I don't know if it's gone over enough. I typed in a few like roster constructions and stuff, and there's some stuff from last year. I don't know if there's like a go-to, and you can tell me a go-to video or something for roster construction. Everybody just goes over ranking stuff. Here's the rankings, rankings for Yahoo, rankings for ESPN. You know, none of that matters though unless you can form your team properly based on the type of league that you're in. So that's it. I'll go over this half point PPR and put it in the next article. Peace out. Have a good draft.